Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. It is normally Craig Scott that says that on a Monday night, but we are here on a Friday evening for the same old Arsenal team talk, and I'm delighted to mention that joining me this evening for his 50th season supporting the Arsenal, it is Mr. Graham Brooks. How are you, mate?
Hello, mate. Hello, Dan. It's great to be on your show, mate, for the season. I know we've talked a lot about this one, haven't we? About our ideas for it, what we're going to do during the season. I know we're going to introduce technology during the season. We're going to try and ramp it up as the season goes on. But, the one thing about same old Arsenal is that we've got some great guys on same old Arsenal, Lee Judges, lovely to bits. Harry, who me and you, we love him, but we never agree with him, do we? But me and you, I think, are normally on the same wavelength when it comes to our opinions on the club. And I'm really looking forward to this season. I'm buzzing for this season. As you said, it's my 50th season following Arsenal. So let's get it going, mate. Let's get going. Really looking forward to this one tonight.
I'm looking forward to this one as well, and it's just because it's the first one. It's me and you together. Craig has given us control, given me control to do as we please. So I want to get straight into it, Graham, because there's a lot for us to discuss. But just while I'm mucking around with this technology, as we call it, I just want to ask your thoughts on Mikel Arteta's end to the season, because for me it was a atrocious season in the league, but it was a complete lift with the FA Cup and the Community Shield. Does that fill you with confidence going into this season?
Well, absolutely, yes. I think that since he's come in, we've improved enormously, taken great strides. He's given us a shape, a structure, given the players belief. And basically, I think we are going in the right direction. And the fact that he ended up winning a trophy in his 28th game in charge, and then in his 29th game in charge, we won the Community Shield. It ended up being, you have to say, although it was probably our worst season since 1995 in the league, and still not a great season, we salvaged the season, didn't we? And I think it's given the fans tremendous belief and heart going into a new season that we are going in the right direction. We're still, of course, a long way short of where we need to be. We know that. But he's come in and he's galvanised the club very quickly with the way he talks. He impressed us at that first press conference. And I think, I think there's things to work on where he'll be looking to improve this season. But to go into his first season, and let's face it, it became like a season like no other with the pandemic and what happened. He was the one who tested positive, wasn't he? Who in effect led to the season being cancelled. But to do what he's done, I think we have got a really bright head coach, and he's now, of course, team manager, isn't he? But he is someone I think that already the players trust and believe, and I think he's got the fans believing again. We're a long way from where we need to be. We know we're a long way behind Liverpool and Man United, and Chelsea have made serious moves in the transfer market. Man United I think, will be strong as well. But I think that we're heading in the right direction. And we talked before we came on air, if he was to get the two midfield signings he wants, a midfield enforcer, an attacking creator, and he had the midfield that he wanted, I think that he would switch to a 4-3-3, and I think that we would be knocking on the door, challenging for top four. As things stand at the moment, I think we're a little bit short, but let's just see what he does. I mean, we know he's got to improve the away form. Me and you have talked about that and talk about things he needs to improve on this season. But generally, I think he's got the club moving in the right direction again, and I think he's been a breath of fresh air since he come in. And I think more importantly, he's got the players and the fans on side.
I totally agree, Graham, and I think that going into this season, I'm more confident than I was under Unai Emery's first new season. So I think that what I'm going to be looking at now is some progress, and it doesn't really matter so much about the start of this season for how players start, because I still believe that the window is open and a lot can change. And I just wanted to ask you quickly before we go into the team news about Raul leaving, because obviously Arteta and Edu have now been given the reins. Vinai stepped back and said, "Listen, boys, over to you two. You're now controlling football in terms of transfers." As far as I'm concerned, Graham, I'm happier with Arteta and Edu selecting transfers for this Arsenal team moving forward. Would you agree with that?
100%, mate. 100%. I wasn't too sad that he went, to be fair, and I do think that we've got the right structure in place now, and I think Arteta should have more say in the players he wants. And I think there's almost like for a long time at Arsenal there was just too many people making decisions. We went from under Wenger till it was just Wenger Gazidis to the regime we had post Wenger, where we had almost like too many people making decisions. I think ultimately this is the right move. I think it's good for the football club. It's good for Arteta, and he should have a say in the players he wants. And Edu, I've got total trust in Edu. He's one of our own. In fact, that he was an invincible. He understands the club. He's got good links in Brazil, and those who criticise him, I think that's very harsh. I think that I'm excited by this combination, and I think it's the right move.
Good man, I totally agree. Graham, I asked you to select the team you think tomorrow we will go with, not what you want it to be, what you think it will be. I'm going to put this up on the screen now for people to see. I'm just going to go through, literally starting with the goalkeeper, with the back line, with the midfield, and with the front three. We're just going to break it down a bit. So let me just whack this up, because this, as we say, is technology at its best. And I'm hoping that you can all see that. So this is the team we think it's going to be tomorrow. Graham, let's start with Leno and Martinez, because there's been a lot of rumours that Martinez is leaving. What's your thinking of the Leno selection? Is that purely because Martinez is, we think, on his way to another Premier League side?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think Arteta's always had in his mind Leno was a number one. I think Martinez came in and proved to be almost as good, if not better, number one. And I know a lot of people would prefer Martinez. There's an argument that Martinez should start the season in the fact that he was the man in possession, did nothing wrong, was outstanding, and his save per shot ratio is actually higher than Leno's, albeit he only played 9 Premier League games and the Cups games. But I think Arteta has always had in his mind that Leno was his number one. The problem that creates is that when you have 2 outstanding goalkeepers that we have, and I can remember talking about this on Arsenal Fan TV at the back end of last season, and I think it went over the head of the people I was talking to on Arsenal Fan TV. I said that these 2 goalkeepers now are both know that they're good enough to be number one, and one of them is not going to sit on the bench next season, and Arteta will be making a choice. I think Arteta always saw Leno as the number one, and I think that's the reason why I think you've seen what's been happening this week with Martinez being linked with the move away. I think Martinez obviously asked for assurances that Arteta and the club couldn't give him, and he's at that time of his career now where he wants to play all the time, bearing in mind the national team is, becoming Argentina's number one is his aim, and I don't blame him for that. And as a result of that, I think he put his position quite clearly to Arteta, and I think Arteta has said he can't guarantee he'll be in the number one. And on that fact, I think he's virtually said he would like to move then. And I think that's why he's been linked to 2 other Premier League clubs this week. I think Arteta has always seen Leno as his number one, but we were in the position where we had 2 top quality goalkeepers, both worthy of the number one position. And we were never going to hold on to both of them this season. I knew that at the back end of last season. So I've gone for Leno as the goalkeeper, purely and simple, because I think Arteta sees him as his number one, but also Martinez has been linked with the move away.
Yeah, I must admit, Graham, there's heavy reports that Aston Villa have agreed a deal with Martinez, and Brighton may come in and try and snap him up and try and beat Aston Villa to him. It is going to be a shame to see him go. He's been at the club for 10 years. He's never quite made it as number one, and now he finally has. It looks like he's leading, and rightly so. He wants to play first team football, what he deserves, and I'm not sure that Arteta can promise him that. So of course he wants to go and seek that elsewhere. So I agree. I believe in Bernd Leno. I want to talk about the back three, and I want to talk about why you think it's going to be a back three, and why he's not going to go tomorrow with either a 4-3-3 or 4-2-1. We'll start with the back lineup: Kieran Tierney, Rob Holding and William Saliba. It looks to me like they're the only 3 options we've got. I mean, Luiz is injured. Gabriel looks like he's not going to be ready. So is that your thinking there of a back three, Graham?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Gabriel did come into my thoughts, but like you said, I just don't think he's quite ready yet. Otherwise, he would have been on the left side. I think Holding's earned his trust in the fact that he's put in 2 really good appearances in the last 2 big games. So he's earned his trust, so he'll stay in the team for now. And I think Saliba, when he came in against Milton Keynes Dons, you saw what a good player he was immediately. You know, he was pacey, very good on the ball, very composed, very good in possession, a physical presence. And I think when you look at his numbers last year for St Etienne, they were a far better side when he was in the defence. I think he averages something like 3.4 tackles per game won, which is higher than any other Arsenal centre-back last season. Those are outstanding numbers. He really does look, for his age, a really polished, composed player and very comfortable on the ball, playing out in the way Arteta wants to play out. So I think he's impressed in training. I think he's that bit further on than Gabriel. So I think he'll start on the right-hand side. As I say, Holding, who's going to be a very important player tomorrow, Dan. He's going to be up against a real physical presence in Mitrovic, who basically is their key player tomorrow. 26 goals in the Championship last season. The reason why I say he's a key player, because I think Mitrovic is a real physical handful. But Holding relishes those sort of duels. So I think that he's got a very important role tomorrow. And bearing in mind, I think Mitrovic averages 25% of his 26 league goals last year from headers. So he's going to be very dangerous from set plays, from corners, as I say, free kicks. And Holding's got a job there. So I think he's earned Arteta's trust. And the thing about Tierney is, Tierney sits in very well. He's a fantastic footballer. I know you love him to bits, don't you? You see him as a future Arsenal captain.
Love him.
And he is, since he's come to the club, his whole focus has been on getting better as a footballer. And he's really bought in quite quickly to what Mikel Arteta wants. The fact that he's training every day, not worried about going to London and seeing the sights, that says everything about him. We love him because he walks around with a Tesco bag, don't we? But I think ultimately we judge him for his performances on the pitch, and he's been fantastic. He's crucial tomorrow because I see him on that left side, sort of like playing the long balls towards Aubameyang. A couple of times we've had sort of joy where he's played long balls over the top. He's got that left foot, that left peg where he can ping it over the top to Aubameyang like he did in the cup final. There was an argument that you could say that if Gabriel was ready or we had an alternative, he could play at left wing back. And I think that is a future role for him. But I think he's one of these players who Arteta believes in. He's like he can play in so many different positions. We talk about footballers Arteta loves, like hybrid players who are basically flexible, who can play in many positions. And he's one of them. He for Scotland, he's played in a very accomplished manner in the middle of the defence. He's played left back. He's even played, I think, on the right side. He's a top quality player, real top quality player we got on our hands there. So he's the left-sided centre-back. So that's my three tomorrow. Saliba on the right, Holding in the middle, and Tierney on the left.
I think it's a great shout, Graham. And I'm going to bring this question up from Cali Guna because I bring up a good point. It says, should we go for a 4-2-3-1 when we play against the smaller teams? What's your thinking there, mate?
I think we talked about this before we came on air. Although we're improving under Arteta, we have got a problem against teams who sit in a low block. And I think Fulham tomorrow will sit in a low block. I mean, their shape, and obviously you did a pod with a Fulham guy earlier in the week, and I think we've got a Fulham guy coming on later. He'll know the team's formation better than me. I think they play a 4-3-3, but I expect them tomorrow out of possession to play 4-5-1. And they'll sit almost like in two banks of four in a low block. And we do struggle to break teams down in this formation. We last season finished, I think, in the stats, we were the fourth bottom team in chances created in the Prem, which is shocking, isn't it? For a top club. And there's no doubt about it, this is an area that Arteta does need to improve this season. The problem he's got is whenever we go at the moment to the back four, without the players he wants in central midfield, like a midfield enforcer or a creative player, we give up too many shots. We look vulnerable on the counter, and teams transition through us very easily. So what he said there, 4-2-3-1, I did see today it's been talked about. I think he'll stick with this formation for now, but I think he will look to move to a 4-3-3 if he can get one of those midfield targets he wants. I mean, Partey would be excellent in terms of sitting in front of two centre-backs, wouldn't he? If we had a midfield enforcer like him, he would confidently go to a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3. And if we got Hassam Ouar, who is an absolute quality diamond of a footballer to create, again, that would be another player who would enable him then to shift, because these guys are very good at recoveries. You have to remember, Ceballos is not very quick. Xhaka is not very mobile. So when we play, if we play a 4-2-3-1 with just those in our midfield, when teams transition on us, if we're attacking and we lose the ball, we don't recover well enough, and they transition through us too easily, and that's why we were giving up so many shots last season. I think that's why, for now, he'll want to stick with this 3-4-3 formation. The 4-2-3-1 does offer us more quality going forward and does enable us to open teams up more easily, but it leaves us very vulnerable to giving up chances. And we are away from home first game. There's an argument that Fulham are probably a sort of side we should expect to beat, but I just think, and I'm not obviously at the training ground, I'm not seeing what they're working on, but my hunch is that for now he's going to stick to the 3-4-3, move to 4-3-3 eventually. And I agree with Adam Rose there, who makes a really good point. It does require high intensity off the ball movement, and that's what we lack at the moment until he gets his players in to get that intensity. I think he's going to stick to this system, but I think that it offers us defensive security. It's very good, obviously, against the bigger teams. We can counter-attack against the bigger teams, but we do struggle against the weaker teams like Brighton and Aston Villa. We saw it last year. We struggled to break them down in this shape. That's my only worry tomorrow. It could be a scrappy game, if we don't score early and Fulham sit with everybody behind the ball, it could become a scrappy affair. But I'm just hoping that the movement that we've got with Willian maybe coming into the team, offering a bit more creativity. Not that Pepe doesn't create, but I'm just hoping that we can sort of like use the tools we've got. And we have got better players than Fulham, no disrespect to Fulham. And I'm just hoping that that'll get us over the line. But it's a fair shout. And I think, he could have a system, and I will do a pod with you during the season that shows how he could flip from a 3-4-3 to a 4-2-3-1, how when we're on the ball, we're sort of like 2-3-5 when we're pushing forward, pushing teams back, and then we move back into our defensive shape out of possession. But I think this season, he ended the season with a 3-4-3. This was more or less the personnel that ended the season last year. I think it's hard to believe that you'd immediately flip to a 4-2-3-1 tomorrow.
Fair enough, Graham. I'm going to agree with you. I think he will stay with this formation. And before I move on to the wing backs, we are welcomed by Emilio, our Fulham fan. Emilio, how are you, mate?
Hello, guys. Hello, Dan. Hello, Graham. Nice to see you. Thanks for inviting me on.
More than welcome, mate. More than welcome. We're just going through some of the Arsenal stuff at the moment. We are going to move on to Fulham. Me and Graham are just going through the team. But before we move on to our kind of next part of the team, I just wanted to get your opinion, like we always do on here, about Arsenal this season and where you think we're going from a Fulham perspective, if I may, Emilio.
Sure, of course. Well, I did a show last night. We're on Cottage Talk with one of our former legends, Gordon Davis. And I actually predicted you guys to finish in the top four. I actually feel that you're starting to take some shape there. You've won those 2 trophies in August, the Community Shield and the FA Cup. That will give you confidence. As long as, like I said, you've seen that you've kept the core nucleus of your team. You brought in William with good experience there as well. And you could be the surprise top 4 package, if that makes sense. I think there's no pressure on Arsenal fans per se. They didn't have the best of seasons last year, no due respect for the size of a team like Arsenal. But I think you can close that gap this season. I actually fancy you getting that 4th place ahead of potentially Chelsea. Funnily enough, they've spent a lot of money, but they've got a lot to live up for this year. I think obviously, can they push on? I predicted Liverpool, Man City, Man United, and Arsenal to nick that 4th place ahead of Chelsea. So I actually think you've got a good season ahead of you. You've got a good young manager there. Hopefully, he can, for your sake, he'll take you up, onwards and upwards. But yeah, I think if I was an Arsenal fan, I think you should be quite positive, really.
Well, listen, Emilio, you are welcome on any time after saying that. Listen, thank you very much for your honest opinion there. We're going to move into this team. This is the lineup that we expect it to be tomorrow. For your sake, Emilio, I know you've just joined us. Graham, I'm going to talk about Maitland-Niles and Bellerin because these two are the two that did so well for us in both the Community Shield and the FA Cup final. A lot of talk about Cedric and Saka that, they're about and they're fit and raring to go, both of them. But you've gone with Bellerin and Maitland-Niles. And how important are these two players for us and this system, Graham?
I think they're very important, Dan. I think Bellerin, his ability to break the press is very important. I think you'll find that when we play out from the back tomorrow, Saliba and Holding would engage with Ceballos and Xhaka, but eventually Bellerin is like the release valve, somebody to play to look to break the press. I think he's very important. He can get forward and support Willian on the right-hand side as well. And also he can recover. He's very good at recovering his position. So I think he's very important in this team. And I'd like to see us build partnerships up right across the team, not just on the right-hand side, but on the left-hand side. I think Xhaka and Ceballos are developing a nice partnership in central midfield. But I think he's very important to break the press. And obviously, I think he's somebody who offers us quality on the pitch. I know he's come back from his injury. People doubted him. There was talk about him moving away in the transfer window, but I think he's offers us that ability, as I say, to break the lines, to break the press. He's not as pacey as he was maybe when he first came in the team, but he's still, as we saw in the cup final, got a turn of speed. So I think he's an important player in the system. And also, I think he's better at going forward than he is probably in defence. I think Maitland-Niles is crucial in that basically he's very good. He can play two roles in this team. He's very good at recoveries. I think he can get back. But I think also he can tuck inside. That frees up Tierney to move onto the left. So when he tucks into a midfield role, Tierney can sort of like come out wide and move forward and combine with Aubameyang. I'd like to see, obviously, I think Lacazette is going to be crucial in this team as well. And he's going to be coming into midfield to link the play and offer a structure in the way we build up. But in answer to your question, Bellerin, very important, breaking the press. Maitland-Niles, very quick player who can recover, very physical presence. And also, he's very adept and versatile, taking instruction. He's proved that already under Arteta. My only worry is he fit enough? And we don't know the state of these players recovering from international duty. He played a game 4 days ago. Is he fit enough? I know that, as we said, there's almost an argument for Saka coming in on that left-hand side.
Yeah.
He offers balance. And I think, I was listening to Woz Laguna, who I've got a lot of respect for. He would like to see Saka in that left-hand position simply because he offers balance. I don't disagree if he goes with that. I wouldn't be surprised. And also Saka came back off international duty earlier than Maitland-Niles. But I just think that I'm going with the team more or less that ended the season and started the Community Shield in a way. Close to it in the way that the formation, the shape, and the players in the key areas of the team. I think it's not unreasonable to think that he would stick more or less to the structure that he had at the end of last season, and also that he started in the Community Shield. So I think Bellerin, Maitland-Niles, key positions, key players, and I think that I'm expecting them to start tomorrow.
I think it's a great shout. And if it was me, I would probably go with Maitland-Niles at right back and Saka on the left wing back personally. But we're going with the team that we think Arteta's going to choose. And at the moment, it's looking likely for that. Graham, I want to move on to the midfield. And before I do that, I want to talk about triangles, because we're looking at triangles throughout this side of Xhaka dropping into that kind of left-hand side. Ceballos, being everywhere, to be honest. He's been so important for us in Project Restart, particularly. And if you look at this team, for example, we're looking at now, you've got Maitland-Niles, Tierney and Xhaka that playing in that triangle, and of course Ceballos, Bellerin and Saliba in this case playing in that triangle. I saw that working against the big sides, and it's really interesting to see that was what Guardiola was looking at for Man City, and now what Arteta's doing here. I just wanted to talk a bit about that, because I'm not much of a tactician like yourself, but I could even see that working, and I was really impressed with that with Arteta.
Yes, I think so. I think you've hit the nail on the head. He's set players up in the positions basically where they offer value to the team, where they're most comfortable. I think he's put players in their position. Obviously, Maitland-Niles, you could argue, is right-footed and he's playing on the left. But you are right. He's got players playing in these positions where you can see there's triangles where players can make themselves available for passes, can pass and move and build up play. And I think there's combinations there. And players understand their roles, and I think that's what he's done. And you are right. I think there was clear evidence at the back end of last season on the right-hand side, on the left-hand side, where players were getting used to the way that he asking them to play and building up. And I think these players are. He likes players, as I said before, who are almost like hybrid players who basically are flexible. Although he puts them in the right position, it's all about team shape, team structure, and they work on certain things. And you can see that a lot of the things they've worked on the training ground, they're delivering on the pitch, and they're comfortable in that. So I 100% agree with you there. There is sort of like triangles in the way this team is building, and players understanding their roles and working well together.
Yeah, great shout, Graham.
I think I will come on to that midfield. Just to add one thing.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know if you're going to say about this. Ceballos is obviously another shout for me that I think he's going to be pivotal to the team. I'm so great that he's come back for this season. But there's a lot of talk this week that he's not quite fit, that he's not quite match fit. I think he is Arteta's go-to man, to be honest, and I think he will play. But El Neni did nothing wrong in the Community Shield, and he's obviously been working in that shape that the team are playing in. There's a lot of speculation that El Neni will play in midfield tomorrow instead of Ceballos, that Ceballos is not ready. To be honest, I hope that Ceballos plays. I'm nothing against El Neni personally. I think he had an excellent Community Shield. He's a player who keeps it simple. And to be honest, he's pre-season he scored a wonder goal at MK Dons, didn't he? And he put in a brilliant performance in the Community Shield. But I think Ceballos is like our orchestrator, if you like, our deep line conductor, somebody who Arteta has built this wonderful relationship with, and he's almost like a new signing for us in the way he's come back for another loan season. And I think his passing, the way he sort of like jinks from either foot, the way he's able to sort of like turn in tight spaces and get the play moving is key to the way that we play out from the back now. And I hope that he's fit to play tomorrow.
Okay. Before we go into a bit more about Fulham and bring in Emilio, I just want to get through this front three because this is the one that caused a lot of debate and we can have a debate about. We've got Eddie Nketiah, we've got Saka, we've got Pepe, we've got different players playing Aubameyang through the centre and bringing in Willian over the left-hand side to free up Pepe. I know Fergus Keating was on here a minute ago saying play Pepe through the middle and give him a go because he looks so good through the middle. And I even brought that up on the Same Old Arsenal podcast, saying how great he was through the middle. Why have you gone for this front three, Graham? And what is this front three going to do against Fulham tomorrow if it does start?
Well, I've gone for that front three because Aubameyang, obviously, on the left-hand side is where he's primarily scoring most of his goals. Obviously, his selection picked itself. It's just a question whether you play him through the middle or on the left-hand side. And I think Arteta has said that he likes him on the left-hand side and he offers more value to the team on the left-hand side. And you have to say that a lot of the time, the way the team's structured, Aubameyang comes central anyway. And he's always looking to get on the end of balls. You know, you saw it in the cup final. I think you'll see tomorrow Lacazette trying to pull a centre half out of shape and move their defence around to create space for Aubameyang to drift inside. I think I agree with you on Pepe. I would like to see Pepe central, you know, and when he's played on that right-hand side, he's more often than not last season didn't have somebody to combine with. He was always up against three defenders. And I think that when you saw him in the French league, he was somebody, admittedly, he had a fullback gun on his outside a lot of the time, but a lot of the time also he was driving from central positions, combining with his centre forward and running into the box. So that's something I think that maybe Arteta could look to use during the season. The reason why I've gone for Willian is purely and simply I think that he's come in and he's impressed him in training. All the reports are that he's further on with his fitness and he's been playing, I think, in a structure this week in training that is telling everybody that he's going to start tomorrow. I think Willian was bought because we're struggling to create. As I said at the start of the show, we've got the fourth worst statistics for creation in the Premier League last season. Willian last year created 76 chances in the Premier League for Chelsea, which is nearly double our best player. I think Pepe was our highest creator last year with 40. Willian in open play and from set pieces offers us that extra sort of like creative spark, if you like. He can create from open play, he can create from set pieces. He's very versatile. He can move central as well. And also he can play on the left, he can play on the right. I think he's a typical Arteta footballer. And the reason I've gone for him is I just think he's further on in his training at the moment than Pepe. It could well be in time that William and Pepe play in the same team with Aubameyang central. He's got so many options now, Arteta. The reason I've gone for Lacazette over Eddie Eddie offers us the high press, the energy up front. Lacazette offers us the structure off the ball, where he's better than Eddie at coming deeper to receive the ball, moving defenders around. He's a lot more experienced. Hasn't got the explosive press that Eddie's got. And Eddie has been scoring goals wonderfully well for England, as we've seen over the last week. I just think he's going back, to his best centre forward, who ended the season last year really well. I like the way Lacazette switches play as well. In a couple of really good goals we scored last season, Lacazette was the one who picked the ball up, changed the direction of the attack really well. He's got a lot of intelligence in that role. Away from home, I think you need a player like that, a structure. And it's a close call between Eddie and Laka, isn't it? We've talked about this off air. Would not be surprised if Eddie started tomorrow, but I just think he'll go with Laka. I think William's slightly further on than Pepe, and also he bought him to create. I think him and Saliba will make their debuts tomorrow. Aubameyang, I think he sees him as playing on the left. Whether that changes during the season to accommodate Pepe and William in the team, we'll have to wait and see. But at the moment, that's what I'm expecting, Dan.
Yeah, and I can't disagree with that front three at the moment. I did put Pepe in, but having a discussion with you, and we were like, I think it's going to be Willian maybe now, just because, Pepe didn't get a nod against Liverpool, and Willian's come in and he's this creator and he really fancies him, and Willian's absolutely bought into this Arteta way. So I'm going to agree with you there. Eddie may get the nod. I just think Eddie's going to get a lot of game time this season. I really do. I think Arteta likes him. I think he likes his energy, and I think he likes what he brings to the team. And he's been scoring for the England under-20s as well. He's been really doing quite well. So I think that front three is going to cause some problems. Emilio, I've got to bring you in, mate. Looking at that team for tomorrow, does it fill you with confidence as a Fulham fan, or does it fill you with a little bit of dread when you see Aubameyang and Lacazette and Willian running at the Fulham defence?
Yeah. Naturally, that does worry me, to be honest. I think it's hopefully we've learned from our lessons from 2 seasons ago when we were in the Premier League, where we were just leaking goals for fun, weren't we? I think that was our downfall.
Yeah.
The signing Scott Parker, obviously he's got more influence on signings this summer, so it's quite clear from all the transfers thus far, they're all very much defensive-based signings. Got backup keeper, or potentially a new goalkeeper. We've got a lot of a new fullback, left back, new right back. Some versatile players who can play in either central defence or as fullback. So for me, it's all about safety first. So I think we've got better quality in the defence. Again, who would I predict will start tomorrow? I honestly couldn't tell you, because we've had quite a number of new signings at the moment. So I think we're going to see a very, very new back four, to be honest. I think you won't see the Championship back, rather than Michael Hector will play in that central defensive role. But overall, yes, I do worry. But I think with the safety first element, that from the club, that's where they've invested in the summer, in the transfer window. We'd be hopefully be in a better position to absorb that pressure and soak up that pressure. Last time you came to the Cottage, I think it was 1-1 at half time. Then we got absolutely thumped 5-1. In the second half, we completely ran right in that second half. So for me, it's how do we protect that defence? And that, for me, I think we're in a better position now than we were 2 years ago. So I'd rather play a big team like yourselves first game of the season, and then recover and prepare for the next game. For me, it's all about survival this season. Realistic fans, if we can stay in the Premier League, that's got to be our objectives. Survive, beat the teams around us, and pinch a win or two against some of the bigger teams. And for me, 2 years ago, we weren't competitive against any team, let alone the more teams around us. So yeah, I do worry about your forward line, but I think we're in a better position to soak up that pressure. And Scott Parker will play a much more tighter structure than Jokanovic of 2 years ago, where it was far too expansive. And I think we paid the price in the beginning of that season. That was a downfall, really.
Well, one thing I will say, Emilio, is completely different with Scott Parker, and there's kind of a similarity in a way. I said this to Russ when I was on Cottage Talk yesterday, and I said to him that Scott Parker brought a lot of confidence and installed a lot of belief in that Fulham side, exactly like Arteta did with Arsenal. And what's different with Fulham this side is they haven't gone and spent 7 or 8, haven't gone and bought 7 or 8 different players. They stuck with this side, and I think that will suit you well. I'm going to put up a team that Russ has told me he thinks it's going to be. Now, this could be completely different to what you think, but I'm going to put up this team, and we're just going to talk about some duels, and I'm going to ask Graham to go on about some of the key battles that he thinks in the game, and yourself, and I'll be really keen to kind of get your opinion on this. Now, Russ had kind of said to me that it's this is what he thinks the team will be. Now, I don't know if you agree with this, but I'm just going to share the screen now, if I can. Let's get that one off and the Fulham one brought into it. I don't know if you can see that well enough.
Okay, yes, okay.
So he believes this is what the team's going to be. Now, we'll start with your opinions. I don't want to go through player by player, but looking at that team there, is that going to be kind of roughly what we're expecting, or is there anything that sticks out that you think, no, the way that's just not going to happen? Is there anything there from you, Emilio?
Yeah, I think defensively we'll see. I don't see Tim Ream starting in central defence tomorrow. I see we've got a new signing today, this Ola Aina, who can play in central defence or as a fullback, so he could potentially start. And Dennis Odoi again, did a good job. He's been a loyal servant for the club, but again was found out 2 years ago in the Premier League. I see him no more than a squad player, and we have strengthened in both right back and left back position. Joe Bryan is an interesting proposition here, because we were talking about on the show last night whether we've got Anthony Robinson, a young
from Wigan, is that right?
Yeah, he's probably more of a natural left back defender who might be given his debut, and who knows, we may actually push Joe Bryan further upfield, where I think he's more effective, offensively than he is defensively. So again, I see quite a lot of variation from that defensive. I'd only probably see Hector as being the only one of that back four who will play in that position, as per Russ's view here, with Joe Bryan potentially pushing up forward. I agree with Harrison Reed protecting the back four. I know he's been a good signing, but we're going to see what he can do in the Premier League, because his parent club previously was loaning him out to all Championship teams. Now he's got the opportunity to play in the Premier League.
Well, it's his point to prove that Southampton have made a mistake in loaning him out to you, isn't it? So there we go. Exactly. I think he's got a point to prove, Harrison Reed, and he's been quite consistent from what I can hear from you guys. So
exactly, and I think so. So again, I'm still in two minds. I think he did a great job at the back end of the season to get us up into the playoffs final and actually ultimately winning at Wembley. But this is another ball game. Let's see what he can do in the Premier League. So he's got a lot to prove to the club, and the club have paid his loyalty and his hard work for getting us promoted. So yeah, a busy defensive midfielder. So I'm encouraged to see what he can do in the Premier League.
Okay, and we move on to Tom Cairney and Josh Onomah, two of your best players in my opinion. I've always been a fan of Tom Cairney. I think that he's got a fantastic amount of ability. Graham, I want to move on to you with Tom Cairney, because you've got something to say about this lad, and you think that he's going to be a bit of a problem for us potentially tomorrow.
Yeah, I think he's a fantastic player. I've seen him a few times. I like him. I think he is the key player for Fulham tomorrow, and we need to be aware of that. He's like their orchestrator, the person who gets the team ticking. He passes down at something like 89.1%.
Yeah,
his numbers are absolutely outstanding. I think he's somebody who will try and control the game for them. Now, I think Fulham are normally a very possession-based side, and I think that's what we saw from them last season in the games I saw. But when they are coming back into a division of a higher standard, and tomorrow, I just think that it's not going to be the free-flowing Fulham. They've got some great mavericks in their team, like Knockhart, who on their day are fantastic on the ball. I think he's going to, in my opinion, he's going to sacrifice one of those attacking players, even though they're at home. I think he's more than likely to sort of play three midfielders and two wide players who will come back in a shape off the ball, almost like a 4-5-1. And I think that, as I say, I expect them in this deep block against us, because I think that he'll be aware that Arsenal struggle against a deep block. And I think that he wants defensive security, even though they're at home and it's the first game. So I think if Fulham get a draw out of this tomorrow, I think they'll be happy. I think Cairney is their person who gets the team ticking. So he's obviously a player that we need to be on to stop them from building up their play. And I think he needs to be pressed. I think we need to make sure the ball goes to the player who's less comfortable in possession and not to him. So I expect Arteta to have plans to stop him from building their play. I think Mitrovic is obviously their key player, there's no doubt about it, because his goal scoring record, when he went on loan there in the first place, I think he had something like 11 goals in very few games. Even in their season when they were relegated, he scored something like 12 goals out of about 30 that they scored. And last year, his numbers were exceptional, 26 championship goals. And as I say, he's very good in their physical presence. I think they like their fullbacks to get on. You saw Brian at the end of last season scoring goals in the playoff final. I think so that they like their fullbacks to bomb on. That's where I like to see us try and expose them in the wide areas if we can. If their fullbacks are getting high, it'd be a question of, I don't see Parker probably gambling too much with both forwards bombing on at the same time tomorrow, because he won't want to leave them too open. But I think we should try and look to build overloads in the area on the right hand side, and try and sort of like work some triangles in that side of the pitch if we can, and open them up. Lacazette pulling there. I think Ream is an experienced defender, but one we talked about off air as probably not being Premiership proven, even though he was outstanding in the Championship from last year. He's one who might be a weak link. Hector, obviously, I thought I was very impressed with him, what I saw last year. But for me, the two key players in the team are Kearney, is for the way he builds their play, and Mitrovic. But I think that, as I say, it's very difficult to second guess how Parker's going to play this. I think he's got lots of talented players, like Knockhart. I think that Cabana, I hope I pronounced that right, Cabana,
yes.
He ended last year on fire, something like 5 goals in 5 games. He is a creative spark, but he's not going to play Cabana, I think, Lockhart, and also the lad who plays at 10, the guy they got from Fulham. I think he'll sacrifice one of them and bring Lamina in tomorrow. And I think that they'll be set up more in a defensive shape and try and hit us on the break. And I think they'll be looking to score from set plays. I think they'll be well aware that Arsenal don't defend set plays well, although they are improving under Arteta. And they'll be well aware of that Mitrovic in the air is going to cause Arsenal problems. So I think they'll play. I honestly think, Dan, I think they'll play to get up the pitch and get free kicks. It won't be like they were last season, where they were a possession-based team who basically looked to get wide players on the ball in those areas and hope to make something happen with the fullbacks that high. I don't think it's going to be that. They're going to play that sort of game tomorrow. I just think because they are well aware of what Arsenal are capable of. They're well aware of Aubameyang pace. They're well aware of what Willian offers. So I think that they will be very well drilled tomorrow, Fulham. And as I say, it could be a scrappy game. I hope we score first. If we score early, that's going to bring them out more. If we don't score early and it goes on 0-0 a long time, I think they'll sit in that shape and look to nick a goal, just like what Aston Villa did. That's the problem we've got. And that's why Adam, who said at the start of the show, when he talked about that more expansive or certainly a more flexible formation that 4-2-3-1 gives you, that would more than likely, if he went with that, create more chances for us than this formation. But I think if Parker sees us playing that shape tomorrow, it might influence the way he plays. I bet they've set up for 2 ways tomorrow, Dan. I bet they've set up if he does go 4-2-3-1, or they've also set up if he goes 3-4-3, because he would have done his homework, Scott Parker. He would be looking at the way Arsenal play. And I think it might even influence his team selection. Obviously, he won't know till he gets the teams, but players can be flexible on the pitch, and he can make adjustments. So, look, for me, I think the key battle is midfield. I think we need to turn up and dominate, as Woz says. Woz makes a great point. I love Woz. Dominate the football. I love the way he says that. Dominate the football. We need to get our top players on the ball, dominate the football, and get possession of the ball, and pin them back, and basically sort of like start moving them around. But I think the one thing this team does lack, and we saw it against Tottenham Hotspur, we haven't got in that central midfield someone who can drive through that midfield, with pace to pull players out of position. Now, whether Willian can come into the middle there, because it's possible that he might have been working on a shape this week where Lacazette and Aubameyang go into a 2, or Bellerin pushes out and William comes more central. There's bound to be changes in the shape that we play tomorrow. It'll be set up 3-4-3, but I can see us sort of like, as I say, at times it'll be a 2-3-5. I can see it sort of like maybe William coming central and it becoming a 2 up top, So I think that's the sort of thing I'd hope he'd be looking at tomorrow to try and unlock Fulham, because I think they're going to be very well drilled and very defensive tomorrow in their shape, because they understand that if they go too gung-ho, we've got the players to pick them off then.
Yeah, I listen. I totally agree. And I was asked how we win this game. My answer was defend well and take our chances, because I think that we will get chances. But if we do not take them, like we didn't against Brighton, and we lost 2-1 that game, then who knows what could happen. They're a dangerous side. Emilio, I've got to ask you about this front, kind of what we're doing with the rest of this team, because Knockhart, for me, not being in there, I was surprised that Rusty didn't go for him. I quite like the guy. I think he's threatening going forward. And just give us touch of base on Josh Onoma and Mitrovic, because I think that they could be quite dangerous tomorrow as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Graham, you hit the nail on the head. For me, it's, have we got enough quality to break through that Arsenal defence? I think we're going to have to rely on, Mitrovic causing havoc to your central defenders, winning those free kicks on the edge of the box, getting some corners, set piece. That's where I think we're going to be productive. I think Tom Kearney has got a second bite of the cherry in the Premier League. He didn't impress a couple of years ago. And to be honest, none of the team did, to be totally frank. But he's got another bite of the cherry. And to be honest, I'm not sure if Anguissa, if Anguissa is available and able to start, then for me, I think he had a very good back end of the Premier League season. He was one of the most improved player from under Scott Parker when Scott Parker got the job in March 2 years ago. And I would potentially see him sitting more in that holding midfield and pushing Tom Kearney forward and compromising on Josh Onuma, to be honest. So, Josh Onuma, again, not played at this level. So, again, unproven in the Premier League. So, I think there'll be some variety there. Knockaert, divides opinion, to be honest. He didn't have a particularly good season in the Championship, nor did Ivan Cavallera. But in a funny way, I actually see Andy Knockaert better suited for the Premier League in a funny way. I think he's up for the bigger pro. He likes the attention seeking. I wouldn't surprise me he would actually start in place of Kamara, and Kamara possibly being on the bench. So for me, Mitrovic is obviously where our goals are going to come from. We haven't invested in any offensive options so far in the transfer window, which says a lot about Scott Parker's objectives here. Keep it tight, keep possession, don't give away early goals, because if we give away early goals, then we're going to be stuffed, to be honest, because then Arsenal could run riot here. So for me, it's all about protecting the first 20, 25 minutes, keeping it tight, trying to make something happen in midfield. Don't give the ball away cheaply, because we know the defense, the key to the victory, to whoever's going to win this game tomorrow, is the midfield. If we're going to give the ball away cheaply, then Arsenal could run riot. But for me, if we can keep it tight, compact, and just be patient, as Scott Parker will do, then, who knows? We might be able to pinch something out of the game tomorrow. So I don't think we're going to lose 5-1 like we did 2 years ago. I think there'll be a lot tighter than that. But for me, we've got quality up front, but have we got enough quality through the likes of Tom Kearney, potentially Anguissa or Onuma, to actually break through that Arsenal defence? For me, it's going to be around the set piece, win those set pieces, and who knows, we've got a chance.
I think it's a great shout, Emilio. And let's be honest, I want you to be honest with me here. What would be a good result for you tomorrow? And how do you think? I mean, you've talked about how you think you need to break us down and what you need to do. But what are you looking for here? Are you looking for all 3 points, or would you take a point if I give it to you now?
A point's a bonus, to be honest. I think most Fulham fans, even those who are optimistic, are not expecting to get much out of the game tomorrow. But we've got a set of young new players come through. Some of the signings we've made are very shrewd. There's some good young players coming, that we've signed, not on big fees, so that's encouraging. That's a sign of where this club is trying to get to. And under Scott Parker's regime for the next 3 years, if he can, he's been given a 3-year contract, so that's recognition for the good work he did last season. I wasn't his biggest fan when he got the job, last summer. But to be honest, his job was to get us promoted, and he's done that. So I've had to push back on a number of Fulham fans who keep complaining that we're not doing well enough in the Championship. We were struggling, we were boring. But for me, it's all about playing in the Premier League, and he's got us there. So he's been rewarded with that. And for me, if we can get a point out of tomorrow, then great, because for me, it's beating the teams around us is more important. And like I said at the beginning of the show, if we can pinch a win or two against the top 6, maybe a draw here and there, then that's progression from 2 years ago, where I don't think we actually got any points against the top 4, home or away. So we need to change that. We need to be more difficult to beat. And I think with some of these signings that we've made, it won't be a 5-1 demolition. I think you guys will have it a lot tougher. And I'd rather play a big team at the start of the season rather than 3rd or 4th game in. I'd rather get ourselves into some sort of rhythm and momentum and match fitness, and when you've got to play the teams around you, when you're better prepared, rather than playing the likes of Aston Villa tomorrow and potentially losing. We need to be beating Aston Villa to stay in this Premier League, not necessarily beating Arsenal. So to your point, I'll take a point tomorrow.
Fair enough. And I just want to touch on Scott Parker, Emilio, because for me, I think he's done a great job. He's come in there, and I watched a bit of Championship football, and I never saw Fulham coming up. I really didn't. I've got to be honest with you. I didn't see it happening. But then I started to see you play towards the end of the season, and I thought, wow, Scott Parker really has told these lads that you can win these football matches. And he just installed that confidence and belief, and it lifted the dressing room. And I think essentially that is why you got yourself into the Premier League. What job has he done, and does he deserve the credit that he's receiving?
Absolutely. And I think, like I said, I'm not his biggest fan per se, but I've got to applaud him for the job he's done. He's got us promoted. His brand of football isn't necessarily, the brand of football that we all want to be seeing, but what's more important, winning or losing? To be honest, so if we can win and be competitive, playing a sort of a more conservative brand of football, I'm okay with that. It's for me. It's about playing in the big league, which we're there now. Let's try to consolidate and stay up there. And I had an event, a Fulham event. I went to the Cottage last October, I think it was, where I had a few private words with him at that event that night. And I was not really challenging him. I was challenging him around the fact that a lot of the fans were criticising his style of football. He was getting a lot of criticism and boost from the fans when we were sort of underperforming. And he said he's not going to change his philosophy. His philosophy is about playing the ball from the back, keeping possession, wait patiently for the opportunities, and trying to make something happen. And then he took that philosophy, from that conversation I had with him in October right through the rest of the season. He didn't compromise, didn't change his style. He believed in that way of playing football, and that got us promoted. And for me, I think it's all about keeping it tight. We can't play in the Premier League and concede on average 3 goals a game like we did 2 years ago. That's relegation material. So that's why we've invested particularly in defence. Keep it tight, get some good quality players who can keep possession and make it difficult and defend competently. And hopefully offensively we can make something happen. But for me, I still worry about where are the goals coming from. If I'm looking at the signings so far, if Mitrovic gets injured, where are the goals coming from? That's a worry for me. I don't think we've got enough goals in the tank, so we can't afford to go 1-0 down early on, because do we have enough quality to turn that game around? So that's still nagging me, to be honest. I think we need a bit more quality up front.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, and that's a really good point. If Mitrovic isn't about, then who does get your goals? But I want to ask you both this. Emilio, we'll start with you. If you could pick any Arsenal player to put into the Fulham side straight away, who would it be, and why would it be Aubameyang? No, I'm joking. Who would it be?
But again, the same with you guys. If Aubameyang gets injured, where are your goals going to come from? I think that you've probably got a similar dilemma to some extent as well. So for me, obviously, by default, him and Mitrovic could be an awesome pairing up front, to be honest. But Willian, again, a funny player for Chelsea. He can do the spectacular, or could be very disappointing, be off his, a bit like Ozil, in and out of games at times. But you made the observation that his number of chances he created for Chelsea last year was more than any of your players put together. So for me, it's obviously Aubameyang. Great ratio of goals per chance, and that's what we need in the Premier League. You need to take your chances, and he will get a few chances per game. And if he converts 2 or 3 of those, then Arsenal get the 3 points. So by default, I'd say he would be the player I'd love to have in the Fulham team.
There we go. Graham, same question to you. If you had to pick a Fulham team to walk into the Arsenal team, who would it be and why?
Pick a Fulham team to walk into the Arsenal team.
Sorry, player. Sorry, mate.
I think the first thing I say to Emilio is that he makes a good point about Mitrovic and if he got injured. But they went up, didn't they? They won the Championship final without Mitrovic. I know he came on and assisted for one of the goals, but they didn't have him in the final, did they? And he didn't have him in the semi-final either. So they beat Cardiff. Yeah, and they won the final. But that's a good point you made. He scored 26 goals last year in the Championship of your 64 goals. So he's a key cog. And for that reason, I could, he would fit in well at Arsenal, wouldn't he? Because he's a physical presence and he could easily fill that role that Laka plays for us. We're being linked with Ed Ward at the moment of Celtic, aren't we? But Mitrovic is somebody in that style who would fit. They've got some very good young attacking wide players, haven't they? What's the name of the young lad who you got from Tottenham, Emilio?
Onoma.
Oh no, Josh Onoma.
Yeah. He's a very talented player. He can play at 10. He can play in a number of positions, and obviously Cabano last year, he ended the season. He looked a good player. So they are good players, who basically. I'm not saying we got players in those positions, haven't we? Who probably are ahead of those. But they are still good players, creative players. But obviously, if you pin me down to one, Dan, it would have to be Mitrovic, wouldn't it?
See, I'm going to disagree and say that I would have Tom Kearney in our midfield just because he's pulling the strings. And if you had to give me one, I think that he could still do a job just because I love his passing ability. I think he's got technical ability. I think he actually cares. I like players that care, that give passion. And that's why I love Kieran Tierney. And there was a question earlier, which was a great, kind donation about it's great to have a Scot in the team and it's great to have Kieran Tierney in the side. And if you do want to know what me and Graham think about Kieran Tierney, then please continue to watch Same Old Arsenal Arsenal, because we always talk about him and we absolutely love him. And I think he could be a future Arsenal captain. I think he's that good. I think he's going to be one of the best left backs of Premier League scene, and that's a massive compliment considering we've had a lot of good left backs in the Premier League. I think he could be something really special, and plays in a back three as well as a left back position as well in Kieran Tierney. So that's who I'd go for. We're going to do some predictions before we go, guys. Emilio, let's start with you. What do you think the score is going to be tomorrow, mate?
Can I have two options? I think, if you don't want to predict your team to lose, I think, to be honest, I'm going to stay optimistic. Yeah, I'm going to stick my neck out. I think we can potentially surprise you. I think we might surprise ourselves in a perverse way, because we've got a lot of new signings. We haven't gone for those big name signings per se. So there's a lot of unknowns there. So we might cut you off guard, to be honest. So if we can get a 1-1 draw, I'll be absolutely delighted. If I'm realistic, 2-0, 2-1 lost, and would be a realistic scoreline. But I've got to believe in my club, and I think we might be able to get something out of the game. But again, it all goes about, have we got enough quality? Can we create enough chances? Obviously, if you don't score goals, you're not going to win games. It's obvious. So for me, it's let's hurt you. Let's put you under pressure. And I think we've got a good squad now. The squad is starting to take shape. We've got 2 players in each position. That's why Scott Parker is trying to instill into the squad. So yeah, 1-1 is what my heart's saying. Realistically, probably a 2-0 or 2-1 loss for Fulham. Okay,
Graham, what about yourself? Prediction, please, mate.
I'm going to go 3-1 Arsenal. Now, what I'm going to say to that is, if I am a bit concerned if we don't score early, but under Arteta, we have been scoring early in a lot of games. We've scored 11 goals in the last 12 in the first half of games. So if we score an early goal and Fulham have to change and come out a bit more, I can see us with our quality picking them off for a second. And then, of course, as they chase the game, we could open them up again. But the longer it goes at 0-0, it might, it could conceivably be a scrappy sort of game where it could be settled by 0 or by the odd goal. So, but I just think tomorrow, I just feel as though we're going to score early. I think that we're going to win it by a couple of goals, and I'm going to go 3-1 to Arsenal.
I love that prediction. I am going to say Arsenal are going to win 2-0. And the reason I say that is because I think that we're going to take our chances, but I don't actually think we're going to get as many as some people are saying. I've seen people in the chat saying 4-0, 3-0. I don't think it's going to be a thumping like it was a couple of years ago. I agree with Emilio.
Dan, can I just come in and say this? And I think Emilio might agree with this point. If we were playing Fulham normally, first game of the season, they're back in the Premier League, and there were fans in the stadium tomorrow, that would give Fulham another 15%, 20%. And I think it would, and I think Fulham will be quite capable of an upset, because you always see teams come up from the Championship. First day of a season, they get a top club, and top club hasn't worked them out. First game of the season, caught cold with the fans. The fans are on side, give the players that extra belief. But Fulham haven't got that tomorrow, so it's a massive disadvantage for Fulham. If Fulham had the fans in the stadium, I think that would give them an extra 15, 20%, and I could. That would give them a greater chance of winning the game. The fact that they haven't got the fans in the stadium is one of the reasons why I think the advantage is with us tomorrow, and why I think we'll win the game.
Okay. I think it's very optimistic of us to Graham. Let's hope that we are right.
We're normally wrong, aren't we? We're normally wrong.
Oh, no, we're normally really wrong. That's what's worrying me. That's what's worrying me. We're normally wrong. But I'm gonna, because it's the first game of the season, before we do come to an end, I'm gonna ask for a league position of where we think we're gonna finish. And I know that the transfer window is still open and there's still a lot that can happen. But if we get the players that we're predicted to get, Graham and Emilio, if you can get a couple more through the door, I know you've signed another lad today. Emilio, we'll start with you. Where do you think Fulham will finish this season, looking at what the current squad is looking at the moment?
Yeah, I'm going to say massively optimistic, but I said on the show last night that we finished 16th. I think for me it's all about survival. I don't care how we do it, as long as we stay there. That's got to be the priority, and you continue to build on. It's all about. I compare this Fulham team and Scott Parker style tactics to Chris Hughton. The way when he took Brighton up a few seasons ago, they weren't the most attractive team in the world to watch, but he kept them in the Premier League for 2 consecutive seasons. yes, admittedly, they were the second season they were struggling at times, but they were difficult to beat at home. That's what we need to do this season. We've got to be more difficult to beat at the Cottage, even though there aren't fans there at the moment. But for me, I think there's enough there for us to sort of finish around 16th, but just outside of the relegation zone.
Fair enough. Graham, where are Fulham going to finish and where are Arsenal going to finish, Graham?
I think anything for Fulham above 17th is a result. I think they've just got to stay in the division. And and I think Emilio has touched on it there. I think they've just got to stay in the division this year. Whether they got enough, I don't know. I think it's going to be a battle for them to stay up, to be honest. And I like Fulham. I've been to the Cottage. I love the ground, and we got a fantastic record at Fulham. But I was there when they beat us 2-1 in 2012 with 2 late goals. I think Steve Sidwell scored one of the goals, an ex-Gunner. But I love Fulham. I think they're a nice little club. I hope they stay up. And I do like Scott Parker. I liked him as a footballer. As Emilio's touched on, he has brought a possession-based style to their play. And I think that I think he'll have him playing in a structure this season that give him a chance to stay up. So I hope they stay up. I think it will be a battle. I think they're going to be hovering around 17th, 18th, and that's my prediction. So I'll sit on the fence with that one. Might just stay up, could just go down, but they're going to be battling to stay up. And I think most Fulham fans would accept that. Where we're going to finish, Dan? We're going to win the Premier League, obviously. No, where we're going to finish, I think if we get we've talked about this off air. If we get those 2 midfielders, if we get Partey and we get Hassan, I think we could get top 4. I really do. I think that but if we don't get them, I think it's 5th. I think that if I look at it, I think that Liverpool and Man City are a long way ahead of everybody else. I think Chelsea have made serious moves in the transfer market and under Lampard, and I think that they will possibly in the running for 3rd. And I think that we're in a battle with Man United for 4th. And I think that if we get those players, we will get. I think we're good enough to get 4th. If we don't, I think depending on who Man United get, I think that because I've said to you before, the away form is the thing for me. We only won 4 away games in the Premier League last year, 2 of our last 11. Which has probably given Emilio a lot of sort of like hope for tomorrow. But so we need to improve our away form, don't we? Even Arteta couldn't change that last year. Although he brought a structure, belief to the team, the away form was still very poor. And I think until we get that sorted out, we're not going to make top 4. But if he gets the players he wants, I can see us being a side good enough to get top 4. But if he doesn't, I think we will remain 5th or 6th. But I've got tremendous belief in Arteta, and I do believe that we're going to get one of those 2 midfielders, Dan.
Okay, Graham, this is why I wanted to do a show with you, mate, because everything you've just said there is spot on to what I've said, mate. I honestly believe that. I think that we're 5th at the moment. And I think that if we can get Thomas Partey and Asamoah, we've got a great chance of getting top 4. And I'm going to be optimistic and say that if we get both of those in this window, then 4th place is where I think we will finish because Arteta has got the magic to get us there. As far as Fulham are concerned, I don't want to be disrespectful. I personally feel that they'll just miss out. I've gone for them in 18th. And I think that they'll struggle along with West Brom and Aston Villa this season. And I hope I'm wrong because like you, Graham, I actually like Fulham. And I did say that to Russ when I was on the channel yesterday. I respect him. I like him as a club. I like Scott Parker a lot. And I like what he's done there. But I just don't see they've got enough, in my opinion, with all the fixtures that come thick and fast for them to stay up. But I really hope that I'm wrong. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Emilio, thank you so much for coming on, mate. I really, really appreciate it. How can everyone follow you on social media, mate? And how can they touch in base with your podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. Just follow Cottage Talk, or I'm Teddy Nello on Twitter. So yeah, just please do follow me. And I've been a Fulham fan for over 40 years now. So it's been around the houses. I've seen them down in the 4th tier of the league. So yeah, I've seen the club for many, many years. So yeah, I live and breathe at Fulham. So yeah, do follow me. And thanks for inviting me on the show. It's been a pleasure, guys. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much. And wish you all the best for the season, except for tomorrow, of course. So,
absolutely. Emilio, thank you, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate you coming on, and more than welcome to come on when the reverse fixture at the Emirates. It would be great to catch up with you and Russ again. It really would. And Graham, as always, mate, thank you ever so much. It's been all right, mate, for the first show. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah. I've enjoyed it as well, mate. I think we know that we're going to sort of like add things to this as we build it. I think next week we could even do a review of the Fulham game if you want. We could look at that, just a brief review. We're going to add a bit of extra technology. I know we're working on that. But I think for a first shout tonight, it's been pretty good. And I really enjoyed talking to Emilio. I wish Fulham all the best for the season. I just hope they get smashed tomorrow.
Absolutely. We'll finish on some light banter. Please come and follow us on the Same Old Arsenal on YouTube. On Twitter, it's at Same Old AFC. Our Twitter handles are down below. It's at Dan Arsenal 87 for myself. Please come and follow Graham as well on Twitter if you haven't done so already. We'll be back on Monday night with Lee Judges, Harry Simew, Mark and Craig Scott. And until then, we will see you next time. Up the Arsenal.